Most people think high ownership cost is just what happens as a Ford gets older, but a lot of the time it isn't wear, it's paperwork. The expensive part isn't the repair, it's the system around the repair. Tiered fluids, procedure upgrades, elastic labor, and policy language that quietly turns routine visits into long-term drain. Here's the part that should make you curious. You can see this coming before a wrench ever touches the car. It shows up in the wording on your estimate, in the service interval that doesn't match your manual, and in whether a required update is actually still covered. Those paper details predict the bill better than the mileage does. In this video, I'll show you the exact checks that expose those patterns in minutes. Watch till the end, because the last one is the easiest to miss. Number 7, the premium oil and fluid spec upsell. Open your owner manual and locate the exact oil specification code listed for your engine. It will be a Ford standard followed by letters and numbers. Compare that code to what appears on the service estimate before approving anything. That single check separates requirement from marketing. What gets presented in the service lane is rarely framed around specification. It is framed around tiers, premium synthetic ultra performance blend, high mileage protection formula. The language implies hierarchy. In reality, Ford engines are engineered around compliance, not brand prestige. If the bottle meets the required standard and viscosity, the engine receives what it was designed to use. Paying above that threshold does not create added durability in normal driving conditions. It only increases the invoice. A typical visit might list $130 for a premium synthetic change when a compliant option would sit closer to $60. The engine feels identical afterward. There is no new sound, no smoother idle, no measurable gain. Yet that extra $70 repeats at every interval. 2 services a year becomes $140 annually. Across 8 years of ownership, that equals $1,120 spent without extending service life. Heavy towing in extreme heat or sustained high-load operation can justify stepping above baseline specification. Outside of that narrow window, brand elevation adds expense without altering wear patterns. Over time, specification discipline preserves more than money. It reinforces a habit of reading requirements instead of absorbing sales language. Engines are engineered within tolerance bands, and once the correct standard is met, additional branding does not expand that band further. Repetition is what makes this category powerful. A single visit feels insignificant. A pattern of visits creates normalization. That normalization becomes routine acceptance. When the routine is adjusted once, it stays adjusted. Invisible spending stops multiplying. The effect is subtle, steady, and entirely controlled by one brief comparison inside the manual. This category does not shock, it erodes. Small upgrades accepted quietly become a habit embedded in routine maintenance. The next issue operates differently because it shifts from recurring overpayment to a procedure that can influence how components age. Number 6, the transmission flush procedure manipulation. Turn past the introduction pages of your owner manual and go straight to the maintenance schedule section for your specific model and mileage. Find the transmission service interval printed there, then place it side by side with the recommendation on your estimate. That quick comparison resets the entire conversation. A glossy line item labeled Complete Transmission Service can appear on the estimate presented as premium protection. Hoses are attached to cooler lines and fresh fluid is pushed through under pressure. It carries the tone of thoroughness, yet Ford schedules for many models call for a drain and refill, sometimes paired with a pan drop and filter change, rather than a forced exchange. When the method drifts from the schedule, nothing feels different immediately. Shifts remain smooth. No warning appears. Any consequence develops gradually through changes in fluid flow and the movement of settled particles within older components. A typical flush may appear at $400 or more, while a drain and refill procedure can sit closer to $250 depending on region. Beyond price, the more important factor is wear pattern stability. For higher mileage units, that have settled into a consistent friction balance. Forcing fluid at pressure can change that balance subtly over time. Nothing fails instantly. The shift quality simply evolves. Burnt fluid, visible contamination, or sustained heavy towing in high heat can justify a more aggressive approach. Outside those scenarios, alignment with the manufacturer's interval preserves both budget and internal consistency. After reviewing mileage and procedure, look at your invoice description. Does it specify flush, drain, and refill, or pan removal? Was fluid condition documented? These questions shift the focus from sales language to mechanical intent. Transmission systems rely on friction stability developed over thousands of shift cycles. Fluid viscosity, clutch engagement pressure, and sediment settlement form a predictable balance. Altering that balance unnecessarily does not always produce immediate warning signs. Instead, the system adapts gradually. That is why this category remains largely unnoticed. It is not catastrophic failure that defines the issue. It is long-term consistency. When service procedure follows manufacturer guidance, the transmission ages predictably. When the method diverges without clear cause, the internal environment changes incrementally. The difference may never feel dramatic, yet small procedural deviations accumulate quietly. Financial leakage is only part of the picture. The next issue moves away from maintenance method and into how labor time itself becomes elastic. Number 5, the flat rate labor inflation. Before approving diagnostic work, state a clear labor hour ceiling in writing. Ask the service advisor to note that authorization stops at a specific number of hours unless further approval is granted. That brief boundary reshapes the entire interaction. Flat rate systems do not bill by the clock on the wall. They operate from a guide that assigns predetermined hours to a task. A technician who completes a job quickly still receives the full flat allocation. That structure rewards efficiency, which is reasonable. The distortion appears when diagnostic exploration stretches without defined limits. 3 hours at $130 per hour becomes $390 before a repair even begins. On paper, it reads as procedure. In practice, it can expand quietly. The effect is rarely dramatic. The vehicle drives away repaired. The invoice simply carries additional time that blends into the total. Over multiple visits in a single year, an extra hour here and there becomes a steady drain. Nothing breaks, nothing fails. The erosion is financial rather than mechanical. Intermittent electrical faults, network communication errors, or complex drivability complaints can legitimately require extended tracing. In those scenarios, additional time reflects real complexity. The key distinction is whether the expansion was defined before work started or allowed to float. Labor inflation does not rely on premium products or maintenance timing. It relies on elasticity. Time becomes flexible unless constrained. Establishing a ceiling converts an open interval into a measured one. Labor billing systems operate on abstraction rather than elapsed clock time. A technician may complete a task in less time than the guide suggests, yet the invoice reflects the full allocation. This structure is standard practice across dealerships. The inflation concern arises when diagnostic exploration extends beyond defined boundaries. Without a predetermined ceiling, billed hours can expand within acceptable policy. It is not overt deception that drives this category, it is elasticity. Setting parameters converts an open range into a fixed interval. Repeated across multiple visits, that boundary prevents incremental growth in labor totals that otherwise appear routine. This pattern focuses on internal billing structure. The following issue shifts away from labor math and into policy language, where updates and bulletins blur the line between required repair and optional charge. Number 4, the warranty gray zone exploitation. Open the Ford Owner Portal and review your vehicle's recall status and warranty coverage before approving any update. Confirm the in-service date and the mileage window tied to bumper-to-bumper protection. That brief verification determines whether an update is a chargeable enhancement or a covered correction. Software language can blur categories. A recall is federally mandated and performed at no charge. A technical service bulletin, however, describes a known issue and the recommended remedy. Yet it is typically covered only while the vehicle remains within its warranty period. When coverage expires, the same calibration that once qualified for no-cost correction can appear as a line item ranging from $300 to $1,400. The vehicle may feel identical after the reprogramming. No new sound, no visible change, only a revised code stored in memory. Policy knowledge asymmetry creates the drift. Owners often assume any update related to drivability or infotainment is automatically free. Dealerships operating within policy language may treat expired coverage as retail work. The result is not dramatic mechanical damage. It is a gradual financial leak tied to misunderstanding of eligibility windows. Vehicles that have exceeded their warranty duration or accumulated mileage beyond coverage thresholds will legitimately fall outside complimentary service. In those cases, payment reflects expired protection rather than manipulation. The distinction hinges on dates and mileage, not urgency in the service lane. Review your warranty start date. Confirm current mileage against the coverage limit. Identify whether the update addresses a recall, a bulletin, or an optional performance revision. These steps convert policy language into measurable terms. Digital systems evolve through calibration revisions rather than physical replacement. Updates adjust timing curves, communication protocols, and control logic invisibly. Because nothing mechanical is removed or installed, the value of the work feels intangible. That intangibility makes policy distinctions less obvious to owners. A covered update and a retail update can look identical on paper. Only the eligibility window separates them. When awareness of warranty duration fades, retail billing quietly replaces coverage. The engine performs the same. The screen behaves the same. Financial drift occurs through overlooked expiration rather than physical deterioration. Policy interpretation centers on eligibility. The issue ahead shifts from digital calibration language to tangible components where authenticity can be verified by touch rather than paperwork. If this breakdown is helping you see dealership billing differently, take a second to like the video and subscribe for more structured protection guides. Share your experience below so others can recognize the patterns before signing another estimate or financing agreement. Number 3, the OEM pricing, aftermarket installation. Ask to see the removed component and its packaging before leaving the service desk. Compare the part number printed on the box with the line item listed on your invoice. That brief verification transforms assumption into confirmation. Invoices often display an original equipment part number accompanied by a premium price. The expectation attached to that number is factory sourcing, controlled tolerances, and manufacturer-backed consistency. When a lower-cost substitute is installed while billing reflects original equipment pricing, the difference is not immediately audible or visible. Steering feel remains stable. Idle quality appears unchanged. What shifts quietly is durability margin. A steering rack billed at $1,000 under an original equipment designation carries a different manufacturing standard than a lower-cost equivalent sourced through an independent supplier. If the installed unit does not match the documented number, the gap becomes financial rather than mechanical at first. Over time, earlier wear patterns may surface, compressing service life. The effect unfolds gradually rather than dramatically. Dealers may use authorized equivalent brands when disclosed clearly in writing and reflected accurately on the invoice. In those cases, transparency replaces ambiguity. The issue arises when documentation and installation diverge. Authenticity risk operates subtly. Trust in documentation replaces physical verification, allowing discrepancies to pass unnoticed. A part number printed on paper does not confirm the component mounted under the vehicle. Matching packaging, labeling, and stamped identification closes that gap. Component sourcing influences lifespan margins more than immediate performance. Original equipment parts are engineered to match the design specifications established during vehicle development. Equivalent alternatives may function adequately, yet their tolerances and material quality can vary. The difference rarely appears during the first drive. Wear patterns reveal themselves gradually through vibration changes, seal fatigue, or steering response variation. Documentation accuracy, therefore, matters beyond billing fairness. It shapes expectations of durability. When invoice descriptions align with installed hardware, ownership forecasting becomes more predictable. When they diverge, uncertainty enters the maintenance cycle. This concern centers on tangible hardware. The following issue shifts away from components entirely and into how financing products are introduced during routine visits where long-term obligations can attach to short-term repairs. Number 2, the service to finance extended warranty repackaging. Pause the repair conversation the moment a protection plan enters the discussion. Separate the immediate mechanical decision from any financing proposal. Ask for the warranty price as a standalone document before considering how it would be paid. Extended coverage is often introduced during a service visit when vulnerability is highest. A repair estimate creates concern, and the offer of long-term protection appears reassuring. When that plan is rolled into a 60 or 72-month loan, the price changes shape. A $2,000 warranty financed over 6 years at moderate interest no longer remains $2,000. It expands quietly as interest accumulates across the term. The vehicle feels unchanged. The dashboard looks the same. The financial commitment, however, stretches beyond the repair itself. Financing structure alters perception. Bundling the plan into monthly payments lowers immediate friction. The increase may look small, perhaps $30 or $40 per month. Multiplied across 72 months, that adjustment compounds into hundreds beyond the listed plan price. The expansion unfolds invisibly within the amortization schedule rather than in the service bay. Drivers who expect to keep their vehicle well beyond 100,000 miles and who have evaluated plan terms independently may find value in extended coverage. Informed choice differs from impulse acceptance during a repair moment. Reflect on how the offer was presented. Was urgency emphasized? Was comparison pricing shown from independent providers? Was the plan introduced after a mechanical estimate created pressure? Financial products alter ownership structure without changing mechanical condition. The vehicle does not improve or deteriorate when coverage is bundled into a loan. What shifts is the timeline of obligation. Monthly figures obscure total outlay because the mind processes small increments more comfortably than large sums. Over extended terms, minor payment increases compound into substantial totals. The psychological framing during a repair discussion lowers resistance to added coverage. Separating evaluation of protection from financing restores clarity. It converts an emotional moment into a calculated decision based on duration, mileage expectation, and independent pricing. Financial layering shapes ownership more than single repairs. The final issue moves away from warranty packaging and examines how fees applied at the point of purchase can magnify debt before the first mile is driven. Number 1, the hidden add-on fee stacking at purchase. Request a full written out-the-door price before any financing paperwork is prepared. Ask for every fee, accessory, and package to be itemized on a single sheet. Review that total in silence before discussing monthly payments. Add-on stacking rarely appears dramatic at first glance. A paint protection package here, a documentation charge there, window etching, interior coating, roadside kits. Each line may seem modest on its own. $2,000 in extras can emerge gradually across several small entries. When folded into a 60 or 72-month loan, that amount transforms from a one-time expense into a long-term obligation. A $3,000 collection of add-ons financed over 72 months at typical interest does not remain $3,000. Interest compounds across the term. The buyer may see an increase of $40 or $50 in the monthly figure. Multiplied across 6 years, the expansion reaches well beyond the sticker of those accessories. The vehicle feels identical. The difference lives entirely inside the amortization schedule. Some buyers negotiate discounts that offset optional packages, effectively neutralizing their impact. In those cases, add-ons may not inflate the overall transaction. Transparency and negotiation change the equation. The issue emerges when extras are embedded before financing calculations are reviewed in full. Debt magnification operates quietly. Ownership cost is shaped at signing, not during later service visits. A disciplined review of itemized totals protects both longevity and savings over the life of the vehicle. Purchase stage decisions set the financial trajectory for the entire ownership period. Once a contract is signed, subsequent discipline during service visits cannot undo excess principal embedded at the beginning. Add-ons become part of the base loan, influencing interest accrual from the first payment onward. That is why stacking operates so effectively. Each accessory feels minor in isolation. Combined, they redefine the total financed amount. Early scrutiny prevents long-term amplification. When every fee is reviewed before calculations are finalized, ownership begins from a controlled position rather than an inflated baseline. Dealership costs rarely explode overnight. They build through small approvals, routine upgrades, and quiet financing layers that feel harmless in the moment. Control the paperwork, question the timing, and separate need from suggestion. That's how ownership stays predictable instead of expensive. If this breakdown helped you read estimates differently, like the video and subscribe for more structured guides like this. And if you've seen one of these line items show up on your own bill, share what it was in the comments. Patterns matter. In the next video, we'll break down the specific service habits that quietly shorten engine life faster than mileage ever could.